Well, February is Black History Month, so joining me now to talk about what that means locally and nationally with its continued significance, I am so happy to be joined right now by Dr. Joyce Ashuntantang. She's a professor at the University of Hartford. I hope I did your name justice.
Of course, of course.
Trying so hard we get it right. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, thank you.
It's a delight to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, why don't we start by talking about the significance of Black History Month, and do you feel that it changes or evolves over time?
I think that the need has remained the same. Mm-hmm. When Dr. Carter Woodson initiated the Negro Week in 1926, the idea was to educate people about the contributions that African Americans had made to the nation. And because at the time, and I think it still holds true today, that African American history is still not part of mainstream history. So there's still that need to highlight Black history.
I heard it described that it's sort of on the fringes still. It's maybe working its way in a little more. Is that
yes, we hope. But the truth about it is that as long as African Americans remain a minority, usually it trickles down also into the way they're represented. Mm-hmm.
Now, talk to me about why it's just so important, really in a general sense for history in general, why it's so important to look back when you're trying to figure out where we're going forward.
The truth about it is that people forget. Mm-hmm. It's very easy for people to forget where we've come from. The history of African Americans in this country, as far as I'm concerned, is the pulse of this nation. It shows how low human beings can go, but it also shows the best, because at any moment in time, whether it was to end slavery, whether it was the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Voting Rights Act of 1965, it took all the races to come together to make it work. And we need to go back to that point in time to get that momentum, to get that energy. So it's a wonderful time in the country. It's a time of renewal.
Yeah, I like that it can encapsulate both the best and the worst of the human condition, because I imagine there's very separate but similar lessons to learn from both.
Definitely.
All right, well, let's talk about Connecticut's sort of role and Connecticut connections to Black History Month.
Of course, Connecticut has its footprints in Black history. Immediately, Venture Smith comes to mind. Venture Smith was kidnapped in Guinea, taken to Anomabo in Gold Coast in Ghana. Eventually, he was taken to Barbados and Rhode Island. He was bought by Robertson Mumford, who sold him at a point in time to Thomas Stanton of Stonington, Connecticut.
Yes.
He bought his freedom when he was about 44. And settled in East Haddam, Connecticut. Yeah. By the time he died, he had acquired over 100 acres of land. So Venture Smith, he also
bought the freedom of his son.
Yes, he bought the freedom of his son and his wife. Yeah. And even at the age of 69, narrated his own story. And that document is so important because it gives us an idea of slaves and freed Black men, 18th century Connecticut. So that's a very important document. I also think of Ebenezer Bassett. He was the first African-American diplomat. That was in 1869. He was appointed a diplomat to Haiti 4 years after the formal abolition of slavery.
He was born in Connecticut.
He was born in Connecticut, Derby, Connecticut. Yeah. And interestingly, at the time, he was not called an ambassador. That term did not even exist. The term did not exist. The word ambassador came in 1893. He was called minister resident to Haiti. But you also have to remember that Haiti had been independent for 65 years by the time he got there. But America never recognized it because America was still a slaveholding nation. And
there was still Connecticut, the word stops on the Underground Railroad.
Yes, we have that also. The Connecticut Underground Railroad. As you know, the railroad was neither a real railroad or underground. Right. Yes, just safe houses to help slaves to travel safely, to escape slavery in the North. And in fact, it's been difficult to determine how many of such stops existed in Connecticut, but historians have found at least 4 in Farmington, Connecticut, which has made which has made them to refer to Farmington as the Grand Central Station of the Underground Railroad.
I've never heard that before. That's good. Well, Doctor, before we run out of time, explain to us what Words Like Trees is. I have that name. Yes.
Oh, yes. Words Like Trees is an event that I created for my African American literature class. I believe that teaching African American literature, in order for the students to get the importance of it, we needed to take it out of the classroom into the community. Mm-hmm. So this is celebrating words by African American leaders, writers, so that students can be inspired and share it with the community. But it also helps them to realize that this is not just learning to get grades. This is important material that they could also pattern their own lives around some of these leaders and writers that they are giving a voice to.
And this is going to happen Thursday now,
it's
from 7:30
Thursday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock, University of Hartford, Shaw Center.
There you go. The information is right there on your screen. And, you know, if there's one thing you want to take away from this, folks at home, you want to learn the story of Venture Smith. It's amazing how detailed it is for a man who, and forgive me if I'm wrong, he passed away in 1805.
Yes, he did.
So absolutely vibrant of a story. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
No, the pleasure.